Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hard Nine podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today is August the 3rd, and if you take a look here, outside of Caleb hiding in some attic once again, you'll notice that we are joined by a third person, one guy that we've been wanting to have on here. So we are very excited to have, after a very ferocious, probably not the right word, but Cardinals trade deadline, Kareem joins us. And obviously, you can find Kareem at Kareem SSN. I am glad with the SSN that you didn't include the full number afterwards on your Twitter. So that was smart. That was well done. And who also writes for Prospects Live. And you can find him at Cardinal Prospects on Instagram. Bro, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I've been a fan of the pod for close to a year now. So it's cool to be on for the first time.
Well, we're excited to have you on. One question I do want to ask. I'm looking at your Twitter handle and profile. Do you go to Syracuse?
I do.
Bro, there is somebody who listens to our show, who has been a regular on our show in the early times. We need to get him back on. Mike Godar is literally the largest Syracuse fan I've ever met in my life. His son, Dane, super nice kid. I'm surprised he didn't name him Sherman or Derek or Jimmy B, to be fair. So you've got to love it up there, I assume.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love the sports, big basketball fan. So looking forward to this year. We've got a pretty good guard rotation. So
yep. So he will be geeked that another Syracuse person is on here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, let's get into the Cardinal stuff because I don't know anything about Syracuse basketball. All right, so let's start here. Let's generalize here. As a whole, they traded out obviously Monty, Hicks, Stratton, Flaherty, and who am I missing? Cabrera, that's the 5, and DeYoung, so 6.
Young.
So they traded out those 6. What did you think of the overall haul they got back for the group of players they sent out?
I think Mo in the front office did a pretty good job. He addressed prior to the deadline that they were going to go after pitching, and that's absolutely what he did. Going after a lot of guys that are close to the big leagues, AA, AAA, guys that are going to provide a lot of depth to the system. And besides that, they also added a couple infielders, second base, third base types that gives them more flexibility if they want to trade a Gorman or Donovan in the offseason for a pitcher. So overall, I think they did a really good job.
Kareem, we can't come on here and have blasphemy statements like we're trading Nolan Gorman.
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of trading him, but I'm just saying that's something they could do if they want to get a frontline pitcher,
Just looking at it as a whole, half these guys I can't pronounce their names. I already screwed that up on the last podcast, so I apologize to all of them. I will let you handle that later. But of all of the deals, is the Flaherty one kind of the pinnacle deal for Mo? Is that the one that we could look back in a couple years and go, that was the trade right there?
Yeah, I'd say the Flaherty trade's definitely the one that I thought they did the best job on. I love Flaherty, but I mean, he's been hit or miss over the past 4 seasons with injury concerns. I know this year he's stayed healthy, but to get that kind of haul for him being a rental, they just did a tremendous job.
I thought they knocked it out of the park. Let's break this down from players because I don't know what to think of Drew Rom at all. Honestly, he's kind of he's an enigma to me, but I know Zach Showalter is the guy you've dug into and really liked in that deal. What is it that you like about him? What intrigues you when you look at his pitch shapes and his potential?
Yeah. So Showalter's a 19-year-old. I think he's got a very, very high ceiling, might be the second highest ceiling in the Cardinal system for a pitching prospect behind Tink Hence.
All right.
Yeah, so he throws from a very low outlier sub 5-foot release height, and this gives a really unique look to hitters. And the low release with the solid ride on his fastball, he's able to create almost a rising effect with the flat vertical approach angle. Think Cooper Jerpy, but he throws a little bit harder and with a higher release. But the pitch actually grades out pretty similarly to Joe Ryan. I know yesterday he didn't have his best game.
What a time to bring up Joe Ryan to Cardinal fans.
Yeah, but I mean, just for
Joe Ryan's a good pitcher, though.
Yeah,
Joe Ryan's good.
for reference, Ryan's fastball last year was the fourth best pitch, four-seamer in baseball by run value. And this year it's the seventh best. So to have a profile similar to that, Showalter doesn't have the command yet that, Ryan, he does a pretty good job at commanding that pitch up in the zone. But it's a special offering. I think out of the pitches, individual pitches that the Cardinals, that each of these prospects have, I think Showalter's fastball is definitely the best pitch from a stuff perspective. He also throws a sweeping slider in the high 70s. It's his second pitch, still working on it, but it's got above average horizontal movement. And he also has a changeup, but he doesn't throw it a lot currently. And he's going to need to add feel to that pitch as he continues to ascend through the system.
Let's go.
Oh, no, sorry. The one thing I was going to point out for the people viewing and listening, by the way, thank you for joining. You can find us on all our Twitters. You can find Kareem at Kareem SSN. My suggestion, listen, since about mid-April when the Cardinals season appeared to be over, I have really started watching more minor league baseball. And I'm telling you, follow this guy. He will not lead you astray. You're one of my favorite follows on Twitter. I'm just going to be honest. I
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great. So for our fans who watch, our viewers, Caleb hates when I call them fans. That does sound kind of weird.
Yeah,
our viewers
don't call
who
them
listen. The one thing that stuck out to me, and I brought this up, I think on the last pod, well, it had to be on the last one, was Showalter drafted out of high school. And you look at 11th, people will look at 11th round and think, oh, but then you see he signed for $500,000, which is really that low round slot money when a lot of people thought he was going to go to third and fourth. I kind of compared him to Cameron Johnson this year, who the Cardinals took a flyer on in the 20th round. He's definitely coming down here and going to LSU. There is no doubt about that. But, that's one of those where it feels like the Orioles took a chance on him in the 11th round, hoping they could coax him out of going to South Florida. And they did.
Yeah, he signed for, I think around 400,000, which is equivalent to like a fourth round pick. With the bonus pool. So like you see the 11th round and that might draw you back, but he's a better talent than that. That round, you would think.
Yeah, let's go to the rest of the package. They're not, I don't think, as exciting as Showalter, but both of them have chances to impact the team as early as next year. We'll say in a positive or negative way, who knows, but they have a chance to impact them. Drew Rom and Cesar Prieto. Go wherever direction you want to go with those two, because I'm not sure what to ask about them, if I'm being honest.
All right, so let me first get into Cesar Prieto. He's a very, very, very aggressive hitter at the plate, but he straight up just hits everything that's thrown to him. He makes over 90% contact on pitches inside the strike zone, and what's even crazier is outside the strike zone, he's making close to 80% contact.
So he's Alec Burleson.
Whoa, he's Luis Ariz. We just traded for Luis Ariz.
All right, let's not do that.
It's
let's not.
I actually have a trivia question for you guys here. There's only one major leaguer with a higher out of zone contact percentage than Prieto does so far in the minor leagues. Any guesses to who?
Vladdy Guerrero Jr.
That's an interesting guess. I have no clue.
We just talked about him.
Is it Luis Ariz?
Yeah, Luis Ariz.
Oh, look at him! Look at him go.
Yeah, so Luis, he's currently.
So he traded for a batting champ, is what you're telling me.
That's what it sounds like.
Great bat to ball skills. Even with the very high chase rate, he's able to make pretty good quality of contact when he hits the ball.
What's his defense
like?
Second
baseman.
He profiles. I think he
Yeah.
profiles best as a second baseman, as he's got fringy arm strength, but he can also handle third base. And he's about average, pretty good athlete, but all said and done, I think he's about an average defender.
All right, let's get to Drew Rom. MLB Pipeline misranks people all the time, so I'm not going to get into that. But it was interesting to me that Drew Rom was, I think, 18th on the Orioles system, according to them. And then the trade happens. They update his ranking, and now he's down to 26th, I believe, for the Cardinals. So they've obviously soured on him a bit. What do we think of Drew Rom? He's interesting. He strikes out a lot of people, but also doesn't throw hard and gives up a shit ton of runs. So I don't know what to think.
Yeah, like you said, he's not going to blow you away with his fastball. It sits 91 miles an hour, but he's a pitcher with a lot of unique characteristics. I think all four of his pitches, he throws a four-seamer, a four-seamer. Hold on one second. He throws a four-seamer, a sinker, a sweeper, and a splitter. And all four of those pitches tunnel well off of each other. His four-seamer is a cut ride heater. His sinker has a lot of horizontal downward movement. So those pitches go off each other very well. And another thing interesting about Rom is he actually has two different arm angles. He's got a higher release and actually a lower one where he a lot of times will throw a sinker and slider. And what that does is improve the horizontal approach angle of each pitch as they're both horizontal moving pitches. So overall, he's a deceptive lefty. A lot of strikeouts, but doesn't have particularly great stuff. It's more so just he has an ability to be deceptive, and all of his pitches work very, very well off of each other. He does have command issues. His walk rate is about 5 batters per 9 innings right now.
Oh boy.
So yeah, that's a red flag.
I was about to say, I was looking at his stuff. I was like 1.7 whip. That's tough. That's a little high.
Not only did we get Luis Ariz in this trade, we also got TJ McFarland.
Left-handed Dakota Hudson, obviously. I'm just kidding. But
I think Rom presents more strikeout upside than those two guys. But yeah, I think more than likely he ends up in a bullpen.
Yes.
What I love about these deals, and I want to know if you feel the same, and we're obviously going to get to the other ones. I love that they've kind of built the 5-man rotation now with McGreevy, Graceffo, Rom, Robersa, and Kloffenstein, because I believe they called all 3 of those guys up. It's now going into next year, they're all a call away. Like, even if they're not necessarily ready for the big leagues, they're now, if someone goes down, you need a spot start, you need a double header start. You've got 5 guys now that can reasonably be called upon at any time to make a start. And I think that's a very smart way for Mo to go about it, because he needs to go for upside in the offseason with an ace like Nola, Snell, take your pick. But he also, now he has the depth that he's been lacking for 10 years. Like, I like what he's done here.
Yeah, going into the season, we had Jake Woodford making starts. I think we're going to be in a lot better position next year with all this depth that we acquired. And great job by Mo.
We had Dak Hudson as our 6th starter, and then our pitcher got hurt, and he still wasn't even in our rotation. That was our plans. But let's go to the Hicks trade, because I know Hicks was your favorite player. Everyone loves watching Jordan Hicks. What do you think of these guys? Like, did you think they did a good job? I know Kloffenstein's a guy a lot of people say might be undervalued prospect ranking wise because he's having a great year, but I don't know much about Robersa. So what do you think of those two?
First of all, did Caleb pronounce it right? Is it Robersa?
I believe it's Roberts based on just hearing Mo, but I'm not 100% sure.
I've been told 3 different things. I looked at the phonetic spelling. It was Robersa, and then Mo goes out there and says Robert. So sorry, Sim. We'll learn it eventually. We'll learn it eventually.
Yeah, so Sam is a pretty interesting righty, 21-year-old, and has had success in levels where he's been younger than the competition. I think he profiles as a pitchability a starter, back-end starter, potentially middle relief if the velo doesn't tick up. But his arsenal consists of a 4-seamer, a cutter, a changeup, and a sweeper, which is his best pitch. And he's comfortable throwing that pitch against lefties and righties. The fastball currently projects a tick below average. It's in the 92 to 93 range. Doesn't have particularly great shape. It's about average vertical, average horizontal movement. So I think adding a couple of ticks to the fastball will just give that pitch a little bit more margin of error. And scouts do think there's still some projection left in his frame. So if he's able to add a couple ticks, I think, profiles as a back end starter. But if not, I think his fastball sweeper will work well out of the bullpen in a middle relief role.
All right, Kloffenstein. What do we think about this guy, and why is he so much better this year than he's ever been?
Yeah, so the interesting about Kloffenstein, he's had an uptick in stuff. Added a couple miles an hour on his fastball, which sits like in the 91, 93 range. And it's a sinker variety. He does also have a four-seamer, but tends to throw the sinker down in the strike zone. That's how he gets his over 50% ground ball rates. But Kloffenstein, he's interesting. I'm a little lower on him than I've seen people on Twitter, like Kyle and Blake. I'm a little bit lower. I don't think he has like any particularly elite pitches. He throws his slider a crap ton. It's his most used pitch, which is, quite interesting, especially for a starting pitcher. But besides that, I think a lot of his pitches profile a tick below average. The command is spotty. I think his sinker, when he does throw it, has okay command lower in the strike zone, and his slider, that pitch is advanced. But other than that, I'm not a huge fan of his changeup. Against lefties, he tends to throw the sinker a lot more, which is interesting because right-hand hitters tend to throw more four-seamers against lefties. So I find that a little bit interesting. But yeah, he's got a little bit swing and miss, a little bit ground ball. I think he projects as like a 5-starter or depth starter.
Once again, is it Kloffenstein or Kloffenstein? Is this a young Frankenstein problem that we're having right now?
I believe it's Kloffenstein. Not 100% sure. Take it with a grain of salt.
So we're going Frankenstein, not Gene Wilder's.
Did Mosaic? I think Mosaic went to Ross Atkins and said, "Who can he not pronounce?"
Right.
Okay, we'll take him.
Hey, one question about the Toronto trade, because obviously as a big Hicks guy, just wanted to. You think there's any chance at all Jordan Hicks is back with the Cardinals next year, or do you think it's one of those things like a lot of teams with a lot of guys, once they're out the door, they're just moving on to greener pastures? Greener's maybe not the word, but you know where I'm going with newer.
Greener's the right word.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah, I think we'll have interest in Hicks. Obviously, he's a guy that's expressed, love for the organization, being in St. Louis, and we're going to need bullpen pieces. So I think we'll go after him. His price might be a little too steep, just because tremendous stuff, and on the open market, I feel like teams could overpay for that. But I think we'll be interested in him. If I was to, I do think there's a less chance of him re-signing than coming back, but I think there is a possibility he does come back.
I think the thing we need to look for with him, if he goes into the postseason with the Blue Jays and has a big postseason where he's their lockdown guy,
he's not coming back
because he's going to get paid a lot. Look at Robert Suarez.
Right.
Look at who's the Rafael Montero.
Yep.
Like those. If you go in the postseason, you have success, you're getting paid. That's just how it is, because that's the freshest thing in everyone's mind. All right, let's go.
Hold on, Caleb. I just have a question since we have half of Toronto's prospects here. One guy that's not on the trade deadline list, but that we did make a move from, was the Sammy Hernandez kid, the catcher, the 19-year-old catcher, in an organization chock full of catching prospects, which the Cardinals are. And obviously we all know you can never have too many catching prospects. And we know that every time you say Bernal's name, Caleb gets incredibly excited. Where does Sammy Hernandez profile in this organization or in the future with the Cardinals?
Yeah, Sammy Hernandez is a ways away. He's currently in the Florida Complex League, still very young, raw, but I do like his defensive skill set. He's got a very strong throwing arm. I think that's really the calling card in his profile. Offensively, don't know much yet. We're going to have to see how he continues to develop. But yeah, he's a fine prospect for Genesis Cabrera.
Just turned 19, right? Like I think he just turned 19.
Yeah, he's very young.
I mean, they got a wild card for a guy that didn't have any interest in having around, it seemed like. All right, I'll leave this up to you. Do you want to spend any time on Matt Swanson? Because I really don't know what to say about him. Like, are you intrigued at all by a 24-year-old AA reliever? That I don't know.
Yeah, I'll touch up on him a little bit. He's just a relief. He's a relief only arm. Throws in the mid 90s, touches 98, sinker shape, gets a lot of ground balls. He also has a slider that he throws half the time that has very good whiff numbers in the minor leagues. In his final 21 and a third innings with the Blue Jays, he didn't allow a single earned run. So he's got that earned run scoreless streak going into the Cardinal system.
I have a fun fact that I learned the other day. Not about Matt Swanson, but just in general. You know, Brad Thompson has the longest scoreless streak ever for the Cardinals
I
history
did.
in the minor
Yeah.
leagues. Brad Thompson. So maybe we'll win a ring with Matt Swanson like they did in 2006 with Brad. All right, this isn't the one that intrigues me the most. This trade, the Montgomery trade, we're gonna go to. Montgomery and Stratton, two guys obviously going to be gone at the end of the year. I think I was under the impression Monty was probably, before we knew Scherzer and Verlander were available, one of the top 2 or 3 pitchers on the market. I'm really interested in. I'm going to try and say this name correctly. Okay, so JC, is that right? So JC.
Yeah.
All right. So JC and Takoa Roby or Takai Roby. I don't know, but okay. Let's start with Roby.
We are really literally. This is great moments for all of
This
these.
is not
kids,
my fault.
and we are literally ruining them.
Great,
for all of them.
maybe great.
By the way,
maybe not.
JC went yard last night at Springfield.
It's JC. But anyway,
JC,
let's go over
whatever.
Roby first because he obviously slotted in MLB pipeline at number 4. MLB pipeline, whatever. But what do you think? What do you think about Roby? Does he have the upside everyone's presenting him to have?
Yeah, out of the prospects the Cardinals got at the deadline, I think Roby's at the very top. Okay, he's a pitcher that's got potential to be a solid middle of the rotation starter, but there's serious injury risk in his profile. He missed the end of the 2021 season due to an elbow strain, and so far this year he's been out since early June, with a shoulder injury. So a track record of arm issues is a red flag, certainly, for a pitcher. But when healthy, Roby has routinely posted strikeout numbers while limiting walks as well. Command is spotty at times, but he does have above average control for his age, being a 21-year-old. And his arsenal is pretty impressive. He's got all of his pitches grade out as plus or average or plus. Firstly, his fastball, it's a 93 to 95 mile an hour heater with riding life up in the zone. He's gotten burned on that pitch due to location. But I do think, all things considered, it's a slightly above average offering for him. But then, the calling card for Roby is really his curveball. It's a low 80s pitch, averages around 2,800 RPMs, and it's got sharp downward break. Roby does also throw a changeup, which is also in the low 90s, and due to the velocity difference between that and his fastball, it plays really well. And lastly, his mid 80s slider. It's a new pitch for him. He developed this past year, and it's flash plus at times, but it's the pitch he has the least feel of, and it's his lowest usage pitch in his arsenal.
I'm intrigued by him just because the Cardinals don't have a lot of pitchers that play with hitters vertically. It's normally they have a lot of horizontal movement, sinker and slider guys. So I'm intrigued by him. So I think what he said is we have Nolan Ryan.
Oh, all right. All right.
No, I'm just kidding. But the curve, I love good curveballs. Like, it reminds me of Tyler Glass now with his fastball that rides up in the zone and his curveball that dives down. I'm not comparing them. I just love watching him pitch because of that.
Is this like a Michael Wacha type? Like, is that
Michael Wacha's changeup was disgusting.
So was his curveball when he first came up.
But I don't know. Comping players kind of stinks.
It is. I hate that. You're right. I'm doing it all day.
But I was kidding about Nolan Ryan. He's not going to be Nolan Ryan. I can guarantee you he won't be Nolan Ryan.
The thing that I always like to see is adding a starter to our prospect order that has four pitches. Now, even though the fourth one is a work in progress, like, there are just so many guys who are 2 to 3 pitch guys coming out of high school, coming out of college, even when they get to AA still. So when you see a guy who's got really good command of 3 and is working on a fourth, that always makes me excited.
Yeah, and Roby has pretty good feel for the fastball, curveball, and changeup against both right-handed and left-hand hitters, which is very impressive.
Huge.
Yeah, and with him, I was reading about him because he was the one when we got him. I'd heard his name about guys Texas could be interested in trading, and a lot of people that write for the Rangers believe that if he wouldn't have been hurt this year, no way he would have been available in this trade. Which to me means Mo went out there and said, "This is a guy he's hurt, but we might not have been able to get him if he wasn't hurt. So let's get him in our system and see what happens." And to me, I like that risk because when you're trading rentals, you can afford to take some risks because there's really no loss there at all. Like, your loss is not having Montgomery on a losing team for 2 months. Like that's not a loss.
All
All right, let's go to JC. He homered last night. First homer as a Cardinal, as a Springfield Cardinal. A lot of people seem to like him. I know Kyle's been on a kick about his defense being better than advertised at third base. What do we think about this kid?
Yeah, so JC is very impressive. Since being drafted out of high school, he's just hit at every level. He posted a 127 WRC plus his first season as a 19-year-old in single A. Last year, between double A and high A, it was 131. And so far this year, he's posted a 133 WRC plus at double A as a 21-year-old. So when you're getting that kind of production from a guy that's consistently playing at leagues that the players are much older than him, it's very impressive. And so JC's got above average contact skills. Power is average raw power, but he does tap into the power in games. If there's one thing he needs to improve on, though, it's his discipline. He has a high chase rate, and in the past couple of years, he's only walked 7.5% of the time. He's a fringy athlete. I think he plays an adequate second base, third base, but I also think he can play shortstop in a pinch. He doesn't have flashy tools, but I just think he's a good baseball player. Another thing to note, he won the Texas Rangers True Ranger Award in 2022. And that award's given to the minor league player who best exemplifies the organization's core values. And so JC's a high character guy, and I think he's just a perfect fit for the Cardinals organization.
Yeah, that seems seems like a perfect Cardinal trade target.
I mean, you're talking about almost a 900 OPS this year and 870 career OPS for a 21-year-old kid. I mean, do you think there's in a world? I mean, obviously Mo did all of this to get depth at all different positions, but do you think he's a guy who could transfer out to left field if they needed him to? Is he that type of athlete, or would we have a Jordan Walker situation on our hands by moving him out to left field?
I mean, I'm sure he could handle outfield. We haven't seen it. He's only played infield positions in his minor league career, but he could probably handle a corner outfield spot.
I would bet a good amount of money that we will see him in the outfield at some point.
That's
not because he should be out there, but because he's going to be a Cardinal. And Matt Adams was in the outfield at one point, so we cannot write anything off.
Matt Adams, Chris Duncan, Will Clark, like the list can keep. I mean,
and then we go to middle infielders, and it's all of them. So we saw Matt Carpenter was in the outfield for a game I went to one time. So who knows? But yeah, I think. Overall, I think that was a pretty good package. We're not talking about John King, because why would we? Good luck, John King. I hope you carve out a bullpen role here. But
so do I.
John,
so
I hope he does. I don't think he will, but I hope he does.
Hey,
at least he has an easy name to
pronounce. Is it fair to say that Mo is way better at selling than he is at buying?
Questionable. I mean, we can't forget he did trade for Nolan Arenado and Goldschmidt. So you can't take
at the trade deadline. I should have.
At the trade deadline.
That was on me. At the trade deadline.
Okay, yeah.
He also traded for Marcell Ozuna, and that was great.
That wasn't the trade deadline, though.
I know, but we can add that into that's in his arsenal.
Hey, one thing I want to talk to you about, since we've got you here. I mean, obviously, I think none of us know, right, with these guys. Like the option is there for them to all become great, and we hope they do. But obviously, we have no clue. We could never hear of them after this podcast, to be fair. But with the draft, as somebody tuned into the prospects, which again, please go follow Kareem at Kareem SSN on Twitter, at Cardinals Prospects on IG. I wish I could figure out Instagram. I really do. I go on there for 5 minutes and I can't figure it out and I move on. So Twitter is where I get all my info from you. But looking at the draft this year, again, all guys, we hope they have incredible success. We hope we see them with the Cardinals, everything else. But when you're talking about guys like Chase Davis and some of the other younger bats, look, for me personally, Braden Jobert lives right down the road from essentially where I'm at. As an LSU guy, I am so geeked to see him. Obviously, it's a triple in his first at bat. I don't know what his ceiling is for the Cardinals, but what did you think overall of Mo and obviously Flores draft for this year?
Yeah, I think they did a very good job overall. They targeted more high upside pitching than I've ever seen them do, with guys like Charles Harrison, Tyler Bratt, are a couple of names that really intrigue me. And they got guys that also offensively, a lot of outfielders that hit the ball hard, which is something you love to see. I love Chase Davis, but a guy in the 5th round that we took, Zach Levinson, he might be my favorite pick in the whole draft. Just a very good all-around hitter, good swing decisions, contact
He's the kid
skills.
from Miami, right? Sorry.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Corner outfield profile, but the bat is really the calling card with him, and I'm very impressed by him.
You probably took the big brunt end of this. Sorry, Kev, then I'll shut up. But you probably took the big brunt end of this because this is what you do on Twitter. But I just loved draft days and watching people freak out that they didn't go full Anaheim Angel, LA Angels, and draft nothing but pitching.
Yeah, they got a lot of outfielders this draft, and
the reactions were the best.
Yeah, everyone wanted Waldrop. All right, let's get into Chase Davis for a second, and then I want to talk about Mason Wynn. But Chase Davis was the guy that you turned me on to. Oh gosh, the day of the draft, and then I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm riding with Chase Davis, and I put it out there that he was going to get drafted right after you did, and it happened. So we both look smart, really, because of you, which is I'll take credit for it. But what intrigued you about Chase Davis? What do we like about this kid? I know he's gone up to a slow start at Palm Beach, but who cares? He just got there. So what do you like about him?
Yeah, so Chase Davis, he's just a very intriguing bat to me. His underlying metrics are very similar to Dylan Cruz and Wyatt Langford, a couple of the outfielders that went early in the draft. And, it's a high zone contact rate, very high exit velocities, 117 mile an hour max EV, low chase rates. Offensively, I absolutely love the profile. There are some concerns with him. He didn't particularly have a great Cape League with the bat. So there are some question marks with that. But when you look at what he did at Arizona, just statistically, it's up there with the top performers in this year's draft.
And his jump from second year to third year was amazing. He cut his K rate almost in half. And the Cape League obviously would bat league, so sometimes that is an indicator of how well you're going to hit in the minors. But I mean, I think he'll be fine. I really do. I think he's going to be really good.
One thing I have learned down here in the land of LSU baseball is if Jay Johnson recruits you, you're going to get drafted and you're probably a fucking stud. That's one thing I have learned. And Chase Davis, obviously at Arizona, where Jay Johnson was. Now next year with the Cardinals, here's what I want to happen is I need us to lose as many games as we can because the games now do not matter. So over the next month and a half, I'll get yelled at for this by the comments.
And you want Tommy White?
And I want Tommy Tanks in our drafts league.
Did you see the latest
kid from Florida? If we can't get Jack Caglione, then I want Tommy Tanks to be a Cardinal. Let's go ahead and lock him up and let's go ahead and build the statue out front of him.
Did you see the latest draft projection, like the way too early ones that are stupid because who knows? But Tommy White was a Cardinal in that projection.
I will buy a jersey the day that happens, hands down.
You will? You not even know what number he's going to put on?
Don't care. I'll just make up at 69.
He'll replace Goldie. There we go. We got it cooking right now. No, I do love Tommy White, but who knows? I mean, who knows what's going to happen? He could.
But
he could
Jay Johnson, everything he touches is magic. It feels like so. Like Chase Davis, that got me excited. That's a guy who, and to hear him talk about Chase Davis got me even more excited. So also, obviously, coaches are always going to say the right things. We know that. But what he was really talking about.
The biggest thing about Chase Davis too that I love is his personality is off the charts.
Yes.
Like they got an exciting player. Look at that. Like they got someone with fire. And all right, let's talk about Mason Wynn.
Another exciting player, by the way.
Very exciting player. Just won International League Player of the Month. He's on fire right now. Obviously, we know who knows. They're probably not going to call him up until he can retain his rookie eligibility because there's now draft picks involved with that. But what do we think of Mason Wynn's year? Like for me, I didn't expect him to have the offensive year he's having. Just personally, I thought there'd be a bigger adjustment at AAA, and it's harder to hit in AAA than it is in AA. Just because the parks are bigger, am I right? Like you hit more home runs at AA. What have you seen from his jump, and what has been the biggest reason that he's really had this offensive outburst this year, at least the last 2 months?
Yeah, so Wynn in his past 19 games, he's just been on a tear, hitting for a lot of power. he's slashing 346, 416, 756 in that span. The ISO's at 410. So you're getting a lot of extra. Yeah. Yeah. So he's been
Nolan Gorman.
Yeah. So he's been hitting a lot of extra base hits recently. All season long, he's had above average contact rates, made quality of contacts all right. I do think when it's all said and done, his calling card's really going to be his defense more so than his offense, even though he's producing at an above average clip at AAA right now. But I think he can be around a league average offensive contributor with plus defense at a premium position with elite base running too. I think I love the package. I think he's a top 20 prospect in baseball right now.
International League Player of the Month, right? Did you say that? Did I miss that?
That's what I said. Yes. But I think the great thing about Wynn is he has the upside to be more than we expect. I think like you look at when Trey Turner was coming up, they're not the same prospects at all. But he was wiry, he was small. No one ever saw him probably hitting 20 homers in the big leagues, like he ended up hitting. So he does have the potential to be more than we think. But his floor is like a good 9 hitter that steals a bunch of bases and plays incredible defense. And if that's your floor as a prospect, I mean, that's definitely a top 20 prospect in baseball to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I absolutely love Wynn. I hope he's called up soon in the next couple of weeks.
Do you
also
think
best pimp jobs in the league in the system?
Do you think he will be with Tommy back? Do you think they'll make that move?
I don't know about like in the next couple of weeks, but by the end of the year, I mean, Mo has already made it evident that he thinks he'll see him at the major league level this year. So I think we'll see him. I don't think in the next couple of weeks, but by the end of the year, I think he'll have some playing time with the big league club.
I'm willing to bet they have a date circled that they're planning on already calling him up.
Yeah,
you're
guess. Probably right.
But even go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go right ahead.
I don't even know what I was going to say.
Okay.
So go for it.
Do you think we get a Moises Gomez September call up in St. Louis, or do you think we'll never ever see him as a Cardinal and he's probably traded in the offseason and he'll go somewhere, let's say Southern Texas, and he'll hit 40 home runs for the Astros? Is that what's going to happen?
Not sure. We might, depending on injury. I'd be leaning towards no. He's had a pretty disappointing season this year at AAA, 77 WRC plus. Quality of contact is way down. Even though he's making more contact, his contact quality's taken a big dip this year. So I'd be willing to bet that's a no, but not 100% sure.
I think you're right. I always want to see him get a shot, just like Luke and Baker. What happens to Luke and Baker after this season?
I do think Baker is going to get a little bit more playing time this year.
Mosaic said that. He said that he wants him back up to see what he can do.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, get all these guys up and see what they can do. One thing I do like is that they're sitting Arenado and Goldie more because those guys don't need to be playing every day anymore. So don't get them injured. So that gives Luke and Baker more opportunities. And I believe you get 2 extra roster spots in September now. It's not 40 anymore, but it's 2 more. Am I right? It goes from 26 to 28.
I believe so.
Yeah, so I mean that's another place you can get him in there. He should be up here, not Taylor Motter, but that's a different story. Do you have anything else you want to add, Dad? That I mean I'm out, but
I just have a couple questions. Can you give me a rundown on the Biloxi Shuckers AA team? Because they're only an hour from my house and I'm going to a game in a couple weeks. Outside of Jackson Churio, is there anyone you know?
I can't give you much.
By the way,
Biloxi Shuckers.
I am going to the game.
Is that the Brewers affiliate?
AA Brewers. The only one I know is Churio. So that's it. I was
actually I do have a name. It depends what game you go to. Jacob Mizorowski, he's a pitcher. He's slated to pitch today, I believe. Very talented. To map that out. Very talented right-hander. Plus stuff. Throws 100 miles an hour with a good, devastating slider. He's one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball right now.
All right. Thanks. See, I knew it. First of all, this is why you should follow this guy. I knew that if I brought up the Biloxi Shuckers, Kareem would know. Last thing I've got, because the Dylan Carlson saga still hurts my heart a little bit, and I don't truly understand it, and I don't think I'll ever truly understand it. But now that we've added all of these prospects and we've added all these guys we love in the draft, is Mo and the group going to fuck these guys over too, just like he's done with all the long list of all the other ones? Or have we learned our lesson?
I don't know. We'll see. I think I think he's more hesitant to just giving up on pieces like a Randy Rosarena, Jose Adolis Garcia as well. I think he's going to be more hesitant to move guys like that a little
Too
prematurely.
hesitant, I think. Don't you think a little too hesitant? Like,
yeah.
We have 27 outfielders on the big league roster, I think, and there's only 26 spots. My favorite thing that's happened so far this year is we came into the year like, all right, we got to see who's going to be the starters, who's going to differentiate themselves. Lars Nootbaar he's been awesome. Jordan Walker can't field, but he can hit. And then we have everybody else that we still don't know what's going on. Tyler O'Neill's hitting well again. Are they going to trade him? Who knows? Stay tuned. I'm sure they're all here again in 2024.
Yeah, I do think Tyler ONeill is someone that they would consider moving just because he's only he only has one more year of control beyond this year. And just looking at some moves in the past, like a Harrison Bader or even a Colton Wong to a lesser degree, I think they're definitely willing to move pieces that cost more. I think the thing about ONeill, he's had a tough year, dealt with a lot of injuries, and his value probably was too low to sell on him right now.
Oh yeah, Tanny's. If he has a good second half, I almost want to keep him. Because what are you going to get back that's going to be worth more than Tyler O'Neill?
For it again.
But you know what I mean? Like if you're going to get something back and it's not worth more than Tyler O'Neill can be to you in 2024, why do it? That's how I feel, at least. Like unless you're really in on Dylan Carlson, which I don't think they are, from what I've seen. Which I love Dylan Carlson, but I don't think they do.
I don't know. I could definitely see them trading O'Neill in the offseason, depending on what his value is like.
Is it difficult? This is the last thing I have, and then
Sure.
we can get out of here because we've been on for a long time. But do you have a hard time seeing how they can get Tommy Edman, Brendan Donovan, and Nolan Gorman all playing time next year with this crowded outfield? Because you'd like to say just put Donovan in left field or something, but then you have all the what do you do with the other guys? So I almost think they're in a good position to make a trade for a controllable pitcher. I mean, we obviously look at the Mariners and the Marlins when we think of that, but they're going to pick the wrong one to trade, I think. I don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be the wrong one. Do you think they can keep all these guys? I don't know.
They could, but I have a feeling they're going to trade one of them.
They have to, right? Like they have to. It's almost like the Prito move, the Sajacy move. We don't know what those guys will become, but that really stocks up your upper levels of the minor leagues with guys that can come up and at least like be a body to replace them at some point if they need them. Like that seemed like they were really going for some depth there for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. And they don't particularly have great depth in terms of infield prospects in the upper level minors besides Mason Wynn. So I do think getting those two prospects in the trades was pretty good. And if, like I said earlier on the pod, I do think if they are willing to move one of these pieces, it gives them more flexibility with the guys they got back.
And to be honest, if there's an injury, knock on wood, we never want anybody to get hurt. But if there is next year, I'm way more excited about Prieto or Sajacy coming up than I was for Mean or Taylor Motter. No offense to those two humans. Shout out for making a great career. You've done well. You've made it. You did great. But I'm way more excited for those guys to come up than I am the other ones. That's all I'm saying.
Well, Jose Fermin was like missing in action for 3 months, but whatever. He's here. He's back. All right. Do you guys got anything, or can we wrap this up?
I thought I had one more thing, but I seem to have lost it. So, I know.
Also, one last thing we didn't say yet. Hold on. Sorry.
No, you're good.
We didn't say this, but Kareem writes for Prospect Live, the newsletter. You said the daily newsletter, Prospect newsletter.
The Daily Sheet, which is over on Patreon.
Daily Sheet. That's on.
I sub in for that. I don't cover it every day, but
okay.
Every now and then I do post on there.
Go read his stuff. Prospects Live does a great job. I think their prospect rankings are more in line with my stupid views than it is with the MLB Pipeline. They have very good people over there that cover prospects daily. So go read that stuff. All right, last thing for you, Dan. Then we need.
Yeah, last thing. Anybody at the lower levels, I'm not talking Memphis, Springfield, I'm talking Peoria or Palm Beach, that our viewers, our listeners should be maybe paying attention to in the next few years that are really starting to stand out. And it's a two-part question, so I apologize. Victor Scott, is this guy a legit major league prospect, or is this just the really fast guys that the Royals had? Terrence Gore, is this Terrence Gore all over again, or Billy Hamilton?
They won a World Series with those guys.
Fair.
Victor Scott's super impressive to me. He might be the best defensive player that I've watched in the Cardinals minor league system ever.
Wow.
It's very impressive, and obviously at a very premium defensive position. I do think he hits enough to be an everyday regular, close to league average. I do think there's more power potential. Scouts see him growing into his frame a little bit more to add power, but I think he could be a very good contact hitting outfield option that presents great defense and base running.
He's also he's in Double-A right now, correct?
He is. Yeah,
he is.
Is there anybody at those lower levels? Like,
I was going to say something else about Victor.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
So he's a guy that probably has a chance to start the year AAA next year, which means when you're at AAA, you're a phone call away. So we could see Victor Scott relatively soon. Like, he would be a guy to bring up late in the year as a defensive replacement, also a hitter if you need that. So I think we'll see him pretty soon. He was drafted in 2022, correct?
Yep.
I bet he's going to have a lot of people are going to be asking for him to be called up next year is my prediction.
And Mike, just to answer your question on whether he's legit or not, I'm not going to give too much detail into my prospect list, but just know Victor Scott's inside my top 5.
When's that come out for everybody on your
next couple of weeks? I'm still working on the write-ups.
All right. How can they find that from you once you get it out? Is that Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, I'll post it on Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. We will retweet that as well. But we suggest that everybody watching this goes ahead and hits that follow button on Kareem, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button on here if you'd like while you're at it. But so Bernal, Crooks, those guys, are they legit, or are they what do you think about those guys down there?
Yeah, Bernal's very interesting. High contact rate. His power production's a little bit down this year, but he's still very young for that level. He's inside my top 10 in the system. He hasn't dropped much, if at all, this year. And defensively, scouts rave about him. He's a plus defender, advanced for his age, good throwing arm as well. So just a solid overall prospect and someone intriguing for his age. Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. One thing before we do get out of here, Caleb, you owe Dane Dunning an apology. Yesterday, you just did kind of this, and then you went out and threw 7 1/3 with 11 Ks and shutout ball against the White Sox. So I demand, as part of the Dane Dunning fan club, that you go ahead and you apologize to him right now on air.
Congrats, Dane. You shut down an offense that's apathetic on most days of the week.
Oh, hey, by the way, Jack Flaherty was through 4 with 1 hit and 6 Ks.
He's shoving right now.
I saw he threw 97 miles an hour as well.
Yeah, he threw more pitches over 96 today than he did the last 3 months for the Cardinals. And that was in the first inning.
Cardinals Twitter is going to have a field day with that. He wasn't trying here.
Surely he couldn't just be pumped up to be on a new team. That can't be the reason. But no, shout out Jack, man. I hope he's great. Let's get out of here.
Me too. Kareem, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry. Got joke there. You are welcome on here anytime. We would love to have you back on. It helps us, Caleb and I, be better at talking about what we know, but it really helps the people who do tune into this to get it, to be able to put some names to some faces and be able to put to some who they really are and what they look like coming forward. Thank you so much. We love your stuff on Twitter, on Cardinals Prospect. We really appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate the words, the kind words.
Anytime, bro. Anytime, you are welcome back. Next time we will once again play the game Where's Caleb. It's a lot like Where's Waldo. We don't know what room he'll be sitting in, but today it does look like you're like on the studio of a new theater production. So looks good in there.
I was about to make a really bad joke, so let's
arsenic and old lace or something like that. Is that what
in the goddamn podcast, for fuck's sake?
All right. Always, you can find us all on Twitter. You hit that subscribe button on YouTube. I'd love to say go Cards. That's what Go Cards.